Hello, everybody. Paul David here with Fat Boy Music. Today, we are going to be looking at my Line 6 Helix, and I'd like to do a little maybe tutorial on your first setup and creating your first sounds in Helix. I just recently went through upgrading my gear. All the stuff I had was from the 1990s and was becoming outdated. Technology was rolling around. I bought a rack mount mixer, in-ear monitor systems, Line 6. And I noticed something. It used to be when you would buy a piece of gear, you would get an owner's manual. You go through that owner's manual, you'd read it, try to figure out how to use the gear. And if you had any problem, call their tech support. It was right, their number was right in the owner's manual. There was always a technician more than willing to help you. I found out everything I bought, no owner's manual. You could download them from their websites and do your own PDF file. Tech support was all by email. Oh my God. So you got a question, you got to type it out. Hopefully you articulate yourself correctly to get the correct answer, and then you're in this endless email chain. You just don't email them because it's too difficult. Thank God for YouTube, because there's a lot of videos out there on YouTube giving you instructions. But I have a friend. He's a bass player in a pretty active country band, writing originals. They're getting some recognition in the south of Pittsburgh area. He came over the house, we jammed, and I was showing him my Line 6. He told me he used to have, I won't mention the name of the company, a different system. And he sold it because they promised to bring on bass sounds and never did. So I said, you know, Dave, Line 6 has all that stuff in there. He went home, he bought one that quick. Now, Dave works full-time. He plays in a full-time band, gigging real heavy. He doesn't have a lot of time to get into the ins and outs of how to work a system. So about a month later, I sent him a text message. Hey, Dave, did you figure that Helix out? No, I haven't got there. I just bought it, and it's kind of just sitting over there on the shelf. I says, anytime you want, come on over, bring it over. I'll walk you through the setup of it. But, you know, you have this problem where you get this gear, the tech support sucks. And if it wasn't for YouTube, you wouldn't be able to use the gear, to be honest with you. You'd think since 1990, when I bought my gear, everything would just be plug it in and it works. You know, it's not like that. It's more complicated, more setup. Line 6 Helix, I think, is an awesome platform. It's real easy to use if you just know what buttons to push and where they are. You could set it up really quick, and that's what we're going to go over today. As you see, I've got one of my own presets in there. Well, what we're going to do now is I'm setting the guitar down, and we're just going to get into the face of the gear. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, Line 6 has, the Helix line has 4 units you can buy. You can buy the Line 6 Helix rack mount, and for an added price, you can get the foot controller that doesn't come with the rack mount, or you can just get the Line 6 foot controller where everything's in a foot pedal. You got Line 6 LT. It's a kind of down version of the foot controller. And then they've got Native, which is some software you can upload and use on your, you know, with your electronic gear that you have. I have the rack mount, and I don't know all the ins and outs of the LT or the foot controller. but what I do know is that the setup is very similar. The rack mount, as I found out from talking to Dave, has a few more outputs on the back. You've got XLR outputs, you've got sends, returns, you've got auxiliary outputs. I've got auxiliary inputs where I can control more than, we can plug two instruments into the line 6 and run them independently in the mix. But with that, let's just get into the Helix. I'm going to set my guitar down here and we're going to see how this thing works. As you notice on the front panel, I have my own setup in here. I create my own sounds that I use when I play, and each one's a little bit reminiscent of the sound of the song. I try to get it as close as possible. So you have the foot controller over here, and then you have the rack mount over here. Obviously, on-off switch. The first thing we'd like to talk about is the tuner. If you look on the front panel of the rack mount, you hold this button in, you get a tuner. You can control that via the rack mount or the pedal board. See where it says hold for tuner? You hold that in, takes it off. Or hold it back in, turns it back on. Now I'm going to grab my guitar. I want you to look at this something. This is something a feature I like about the rack mount. You get two independent tuners. As you look at the note here, the E note, I'm going to bring it in tune on the foot controller. Watch the foot controller. Okay, as you see, the foot controller is in tune, but look at the rack mount. It's more of a fine tuner. I have used this to set my intonation on my guitars. So you get it in to the foot controller, you can play with that. If you get it right there where it's centered on the rack mount, you're perfectly spot on in tune. So that's the first feature I'd like to show you on the Helix. Remember, here's the tuner here, and here's the tuner over here on the foot controller. Now you can scroll through your sounds, take the preset button, and just turn. Now, these sounds I've all made myself. Up here, line 6, you can go on their website and you can download sounds that other users with line 6 have created. Some of them are very good, some of them are not so good. We're not going to get into that today. I just want you to know that that's available. So to get through your banks, right here on the front, just turn the preset knob or hit the bank button and I can choose any one of these sounds. Hit the bank button again, Rocket Me, and Sweet Home Alabama. So that is the basic function of getting through the sounds. Helix is going to come with some uploaded sounds for you also. I'm going to go up to 13. And what we're going to do is we're going to create our own sound. And I'm going to try to make it as easy for you to understand as possible. I want you to look at this guitar here. Now they can hold different functions. Look at that as being, this is a chain, all right? And along this chain, here's your input selector. And at the end of the chain, that's where you select your output. So you can use this cursor. Think of this as like a cursor. And we're going to highlight over top of the input, and then we're going to push the button in. And as you look, we can choose where on the line 6 we want to use the input. Now, the only one you can see right here is the guitar in, but on the back of the rack mount, there are more inputs. What I generally choose is I choose this input. So let's say we had two guitar players and they both want to use the Helix. We can use this as one chain, 1 amp, and this as a second chain. So we can come over here and we can assign the first amp to the guitar input. And then we'll come down here and we'll choose this one as my auxiliary input. You see it on the back of the amp. So now we got two guitar players, one amp, and they both have independent sounds. Now, we're going to go and we're going to clear this whole program that I'd uploaded out. So we take that right there, we go over, push over, you see how it scrolls over, and then we're going to go up, 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 and to nothing. There it disappeared. So now this becomes a chain. Now this chain, as you see, it rolls over to here and it sends down to there. Okay? We're going to clear that out, and we're going to select as an output path my XLR output on the back of the amp. You could choose the 1/4 inch, you can choose the sends, whatever you want. For this, the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to choose the XLR. So this is one guitar player, and here's your buddy over here. Now he has the auxiliary input. So let's get his output. Okay, we're going to give him XLR also, and you'll see why in a second. Now look at this. The pan, we're going to go all the way to the left. 100%. And then this one, as a pan, we're going to go all the way to the right. Now, you see these displays, see this low line right here? Anything on this display below this line is set to the knob below it, you see? And all these knobs you can push on them. See, I just centered it back by pushing on it. You can set the level. There's a level for that. And there's a level for that 0.07 dB, 0.00 dB. Let's make them both equal for the sake of argument. Okay, so now we're going to clear out this chain. You just push on this knob over, up to none, it disappears. And so on. And I think once we clear this, it'll take that chain that was placed in there out. Okay, so now you have an input selector, guitar in, input selector, auxiliary in the back, and you have an output selector, XLR, that's to the left, and that's to the right. Now, each one of these positions in the chain, see, I have to clear that out. Each one, you can place an amp, you can place an effect, whatever. And if it becomes long, let's say, see, for the purpose of this, we'll have an amp, we'll have a speaker, and we'll have one effect on each one of these amps. But let's say you need more than that. Then you're going to go back and you're going to take the chain all the way through like that. You could also have the guitar up here and the bass down here. That's how we'll set this up. Okay. To make it simple, I always leave the first bass blank because if I want to come in later on in the future and add an effect before my amp, I can do that. So I go to the, see, we have all these positions. I don't even, never count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 things that we can add into this chain. So we're going to come back. Did it again. So we're going to come back to position 2, right? We're going to add our amp. So you click on that, and then you scroll down. So you can have distortion, dynamics, whatever you want. And I'm going to use, see, this says amp plus cabinet, so that would be a combo amp. We're going to create an amp head, and then we're going to choose a set of speakers. So I pick amp, and then it gives us the option of guitar or bass. We're going to create a guitar amp. So now, you know what who what is. That would be... don't know. You can choose the Deluxe just as a head. I'm going to go down to a Plexi. I like the JTM and the Plexi a lot. I like the AC30. So we'll just choose the British JTM 45 Bright. That's our amp. Okay. Now we're on that amp. Now look down below the line. Here's the amp. We've got it selected. In position 1, you can change the drive, you can change the bass, the mid, treble, and presence, and you can also change the volume of the amp. Let's grab the guitar and just listen to kind of basic. Now remember, there is no speaker cabinet connected to this. We haven't chosen a mic. We have no reverb. Let's get some drive on there. I like to roll my bass and my treble off. So there you have a JTM 45 head in your chain. The next place we're going to go is we're going to add a cabinet. And I'm blocking the view. Amp plus cab, amp, and preamp, cabinet. So now we're going to go, you can choose a single cabinet or a full stack. And let's go down. We want a Marshall cabinet with a Marshall. So we'll go with the greenback 25s, 412. So now we have a double stack JTM 45 with greenback speakers. Now that may not be your preference, but you see how it's done. The next thing we're going to do, one last thing. Now obviously remember, you have all these positions. You could place this amp back here and put effects before it if you like. I like my effects afterwards because they kind of saturate the mix. So we're just going to add a reverb. Okay. Scroll down and let's get we're only coming out the one side. So we're going to get a mono reverb. And I think that's a plate. Now, looking down below, we can edit that reverb. I find that they're too saturated, as you can hear. Let's take the decay down, the tone, the mix. Okay. Now you got a little lighter reverb. So we've created our guitar player's amp. Simple. Obviously, you can go ahead, you can figure out from here what you want in there. Let's go down to the next chain we've created. And our bass player. He needs an amp. Amp, just amp head, click bass. We're over there, bass, and there you go. Cali bass. Let's pick a cabinet for the bass player, and single cab. There's got to be a 18 in here. .118 Woody Blue. Okay. Bass players always need a compressor, so we could select the compressor and compress the bass, or we could put the compressor after the amp figuration and compress the whole rig. So Dynamics, I believe, deluxe compressor, there it is. And you adjust it accordingly. Last thing I forgot to show you, in the speaker configuration, you can choose a microphone by turning this wheel. 160 ribbon, 4038 ribbon. I know a 57 because I have 57s. I usually go with that, but I always listen to the other mics and see what we can do with them. Now you can't hear the bass rig because I don't have anything plugged into the back. And there you have it. Now, you've got this sound created. You want to save it. So we're on 13, all right? We're going to hit save. And look, it comes up with, you have to name this. So we'll call this YouTube, since this is a YouTube tutorial. You dial it in. After you set the sound, hit the save button, and there's your sound. Now, scroll back through your presets, all right? You want to pull it up. There it is, number 13, or back to the banks. There's that. We chose that, hit it again, and right here. There's our sound. I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, would you please subscribe to my channel? And always, thank you for watching.